Hi everyone, welcome back. Nicole here with Edge of Wild, and I'm going to do a quick garden tour. This is July 10th, morning of July 10th. We had rain last night. We only got like maybe not quite a half inch overall. Certain parts of the county, like literally just south of here, saw, according to the radio, 3 to 7 inches over a 7-hour time span, which is a lot. So there's a couple roads closed, a couple power issues. Just in general, that's a lot of rain to see at one time. It did come down pretty heavy with some pretty strong winds. Luckily, we did not see that here. We did see a storm. It was Thursday? I think it was Thursday. We had a storm. We had a really strong windstorm come through. It only lasted like 10 minutes, but I was really concerned we were going to lose my sunflowers and a lot of the flower crops. It flopped the snapdragons, but I went out, harvested everything that was harvestable that night and kind of fluffed everything else. It looks like those fluffed up. The sunflowers are fine. Honestly, thanks to the peas. Like, if it hadn't been for the wall of peas to create the windbreak that it did, I think we would have had a lot more issues. But let's take a look at everything. So here we can see the triticale is growing wonderfully. Everything is still damp from the rain, so I am going to end up soaked, especially walking past these sunflowers. I totally get now when I see pictures of Sunflower Steve all decked out in like rain gear to go harvest sunflowers, because like the dew and everything just, you almost need like a bathing suit to be around them. The caladiums are looking really good. I have a bunch of those that I could harvest and dry the petals. Put them into like avocado oil or some kind of oil that you like, let it infuse for a couple of months, and then you can pull them out and make a salve with them. You kind of strain the leaves, the petals out, then you just have the oil that you melt in some beeswax, and then you can put it together in a pot. I've done it before, it's really good. I have a volunteer snapdragon, so we'll see what that turns out to be, which color. These sunflowers are huge. The first round is getting some really good looking heads on them. It'll probably be another 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before they're ready. The beans are looking monstrous. They're all starting to flower. So we will have beans before we know it. I think I'm going to sneak down the tomato row because I will be slightly less attacked. Cherry tomatoes are doing great. They've gotten quite huge. They're all setting great flowers. These first 2 tomatoes are the determinate variety. They stay smaller, but in general, tomatoes are doing good. They are forming up. This one is one of the Brandywines. That one has some tomatoes down there. This is, I'm pretty sure, a cherry tomato that I transplanted into the middle of that because I lost one there. I need to come through and clean out the suckers. I was explaining to my mom this weekend about cleaning suckers out of the plant, because like these beans, this bean decided it was going to grow up the trellis. Guess it'll be easy to pick those ones. But yeah, there's tomatoes forming up here. Those are going to be really, really delicious. Just doing well. And like, these cherry tomatoes all look great. These 3 fell over because the pea wall ends. So all of the large variety tomatoes, they look like they fared fine. It's just these 3 cherries that I have some tie coming here in the mail, and hopefully I will tie them back up and they will be they will be okay and be happy. I have tried to kind of prop them up, but it hasn't worked so far. Asters have been beat up by the rain. I almost wonder if I need to... I've heard so many like unfun stories about harvesting and netting, but I almost wonder if I need to net those to have the best stems on them. I've used some. Again, not sure if I should pinch them and see if I get better results, but they've really only been like jar height. I have a couple down there that I think are going to be larger, which of course I'm going to end up using those for jars because they're like my main plan for my wedding in 2 weeks. This feverfew looking good. Flowers are coming on nicely. I think I'm going to be able to harvest some of that this week. This is obviously a multi-branching or multi-head sunflower because it's starting to get a bunch of different heads. There's the big head at the top. We'll let that flower and look gorgeous. Edgerarium is looking good. It's kind of a funky thing. It always wilts by the end of the night, but then it's happy and standing up in the morning. I think it makes for a really good like soft filler effect though, so I like it. I think I will continue to grow more. You can see the stakes that we put in here. I came through and put baling twine on them, kind of to work as like a support system to help corral some of the leaves. This is the second succession of sunflowers, and then I haven't put any string up on the last succession. We're also going to corral the glads this way, and I did put a little bit up on the asters because I was afraid more wind or rain would beat those up as well. I think I'm really going to have to think about netting if I'm going to do those again, which I like them, so I want to. Glads are all looking really good. Now, my acorn squash is finally starting to take off. I will say, so I have a ton of ants down there, which makes me think there's aphids, because ants usually mean aphids. I have some fruits, but I don't know that I've had both male and female flowers, which you need to actually pollinate those flowers, because that's a female flower. I don't know that I've had any males for it to pollinate. If it doesn't pollinate, the fruit won't actually, it looks like there's fruit there, but it won't actually mature. It'll just rot on the vine. So I don't know what's going to go there. They continue to finally put on some growth though, so we will see. Mahogany Splendor Hibiscus is really starting to put on like growth in width so that I feel more confident in it. I feel like once it takes off here, it's going to be crazy. Some of these stakes, I just have the stakes up so that I am ready to run string as things get a little taller. Status is starting to put on some really good height, which I'm excited about. This is also something I have planned to use for the wedding. This looks like the purple or the blue. And then this is the rose, pink rose. I love these like light purple lavender asters. I'm hoping there's a bunch in here. That'll be perfect for the wedding. I do love these apricots, just they got a little too leggy. I think I planted them a little too early almost, and they struggled in their seed tray. Feverfew snaps. I have a whole bunch of snaps ready to be harvested again, and like you can see, they've kind of flopped. I've harvested a lot out of here. Those were the Madame Pinks. They kind of flowered first. A lot of these are ready to be harvested again. But again, like this one looks great, but she's got a serious bend to her. So some of them are still standing up really good. Other ones, so-so. This feverfew down here, I think, is totally ready to be harvested. Probably. The Great Wall of Peas, which totally saved the garden in the windstorm. See if I can back up. We've harvested 1 round of peas off of it already and froze like 2.5 quarts. I will continue to harvest and freeze. It's kind of usually my favorite thing to do with them. They're definitely ready again though, because those ones are very sizable versus these ones are very flat. I'm hoping harvest another round, let the last ones mature. I'm still getting some flowers, but I think what I'm going to do is go through and seed another round of peas right underneath this, and then cut all these off, pull them off, and let the next round of peas grow up so that I have like a second succession of them. Onions look great. They did get a little beat up in the windstorm. It bent over a lot of leaves, but I think they will be okay. Potatoes, I've also put some corralling around. Potatoes are looking good, and actually, let's see if I can find it. So, when I was down here putting in this stake, I happened to move a little bit of dirt, and look what I found. It's a baby potato. So realistically, I could pull that out and have that for dinner, and they're called new potatoes. They're really, really soft. So I could definitely start digging some of the potatoes if I wanted to have some fresh potatoes. Let's see, we can sneak down this row and not get too many of these bugs on us. Creepy crawlies. More feverfew. Beets, which I do believe are finally ready to be used. So I could pull some beets, cook them up for dinner. And then more feverfew down here. Garlic. Still got those couple escapes. Not quite dried down enough. Should be good here in another 2 to 3 weeks to pull those. The potato patch is just glorious. I always love how lush it looks. Then here I have celosia. I have a whole bunch of marigolds. I'm hoping to use those with zinnias as those come on. More celosia. Hoping to use this in jars, and hoping to use this phlox in jars for the wedding as well, because I think now I finally have some stem length on it that I could really use up. Need to come out and cut some of it off though, so it keeps flowering. Blue Purum. I think I'm starting to get some. These ones down here are starting to get some of their flowers on them. I think the heat that came on just is not, they're not really meant for heat from what I understand. So it's kind of fried some of them, crisped some of them up. So I'm not sure exactly how well they'll do. Here are pumpkins. I came through and thinned these out finally. They're starting to try to put on their little growth tendrils. I should weave them up this trellis here. They're starting. I have straw flowers. Those are looking lovely. They don't love the rain though. Not a fan. More marigolds. I have a total sea of marigolds. Lesson learned. I'm going to start marigolds much later next year. Because again, I think those will go better with the zinnias. Because they're so bright and cheery and big and punchy. I just think they would look better with the zinnias. I also don't think I'm going to start quite as many. Unless I find a really good use for them. Here I have some of the rudbeckia opening up. I have a giant patch of yarrow that looks wonderful and is pretty much all ready to use. It's been a great filler, and I love my yarrow patch. I'm definitely keeping it. However, I think next year, again, if I invest in some netting, I think this is something I'm going to net because it flops so easily in the wind and the rain. And then your heads are all kind of like tilted towards the sun. It just makes it a little bit harder to use. So I think that's something that either needs to be corralled earlier or netted. This is sea holly. These are also ready to be cut and used, I do believe, because those are starting to mature up nicely. Also flopped with the wind and the rain, so probably going to need to net that in the future as well. But that is perennial, so I'm going to figure out something for the perennial stuff. Really love the Sweet Williams that's coming on. I was worried it was like only going to make one head and it just wasn't going to be good. But they've been putting off multiple heads and putting some pretty good stem length on. So I'm able to use those in arrangements as well. So love that. The sage, I don't love the smell of it, so it's hard for me to put it in bouquets. So I think I just need to come through and cut that flush to the ground. Delphiniums, a couple that have flowered. Some of these are putting on some really nice first year flower spikes, and I'm going to hopefully be able to use those in some of my bouquets. I have more Rudbeckia here, getting ready to flower. That one looks pretty. It's a little beat up from the wind and the bugs. Rogue potato. These are the zinnias, and they are starting to come in nicely. So these ones I have pinched. They've made for a very thick bed of zinnias. The dill fell over. Gorgeous. I think I need to space them out a little more next year, but gorgeous. I also fertilized this week too, so that could be where a lot of the growth is coming from. Those white flowers there, another rogue potato. I have dill here that flopped in the wind. And then zucchini on those two plants, and then here's my summer squash plant. They totally took off with the heat and the rain. I think that's another female flower. That's another female flower. Again, ton of female flowers, but I have yet to see a male flower. So I am pretty sure all these little baby fruits are going to rot because they haven't actually been pollinated, and I haven't seen a male flower yet to even be able to help pollinate. Same case here on the zinnias. And so many ants. Ugh. Yeah. And squash flowers are only open for a day. So like if they don't pollinate that day, they're not pollinating, period. It's the one thing that's a little challenging with them. More dill, more dill, more dill. Here's a cucumber hidden down here with a snail. Darn snails. They have little baby flowers on it as well. I think it's starting to reach for the trellis a little bit. See if we can get it to grow up it. Same with this one here. Carrots look great. I finally came through, weeded those out. Happy with those. Again, the spacing on them's lovely. Here's a green envy zinnia that's like almost like could be harvested tonight. So you do the wiggle test on zinnias, and like that one's staying pretty firm, whereas that thing's floppy as all get out. So that one would probably be ready. I did not end up pinching any of these, but the bugs went after them so atrociously. I feel like they were beat up enough. Kale, looking good, looking crazy. Lettuce, or not lettuce, cabbage. That, I've harvested some. I really need to harvest this head and that head so they don't split from the rain. Cucumbers, we will see if they amount to anything. Celery, I should come out and harvest the big stalks, because at this point, I think they're usable. I did use them in potato salad the other day. They were delicious. Plus, if I harvest those, then I can pull some of these leaves off of these Brussels. See that in there? Right there. That's a baby Brussels sprout. Before we know it, we'll have Brussels. But I do need to go through and pinch those. I've been fertilizing them. And yes, I plant them too close together. It's fine. It's fine. You don't have to space them out totally. I mean, you should, but I don't. Here are sunflowers. This is the last succession of them. That is part of it. Here's some of the later planted zinnias. Again, these ones were started inside. These ones were direct sown. So I had, and like direct sown pretty nicely. But I lost that whole section over there to bugs. Which is why I don't love direct sowing them. Over here, we have puppies. I have my lilies, these ones are starting to get buds on them. I'm hoping they get more than one bud for the year, but I guess we will see. Here is basil. I have both purple basil and then lemon basil. I'm excited. I went through and pinched all of these. So these should all be good and branching and filling out nicely to use. More feverfew. Here is a cucumber. An itty bitty plant. Maybe eventually it'll reach the trellis. This one's a little taller, but also trying to attach to my feverfew. No, this is your home over here. You get to this whole trellis, but not to my feverfew. Got a bunch of flowers on that, so we'll see if those amount to cucumbers for me. Dahlias that I still really need to pinch so that they don't just get one massive stem. I think that is the beginning of the dahlia flower, but I really need to come through and like pinch that out so that those will grow just like that. I would prefer to do it with I would prefer to do it with I want to call them clippers, with nippers, but I guess if I'm here and I need to do it, I just better do it. Otherwise it'll never get done. And they won't branch and fill out like they're supposed to. There. They're all pinched. Yay! I have a wild Rebecca, black-eyed Susan. And then I think that, we didn't take a look at the Kajari melon. So I have a couple more pumpkins, gourds coming in here, and then this here branching out is the Kajari melon. So excited to see it putting on some good growth. I'm gonna keep trying to train it up the trellis. There we go. But I am noticing some flowers on that again. It's a melon, it's a squash. It needs to have male and female flowers, and I just haven't noticed a lot of that. Noticed a lot of male flowers, or any, at this point. So we will see if those come on here. So that's a look at everything that's in the garden, growing, how it looks. July 10th, so almost the middle of July. Definitely still have a ton of peas to go harvest. Tomatoes are getting closer and closer. Flowers are coming in. I've started my CSA bouquets, so I harvested a bunch of those snapdragons the other day and did deliver my first couple of CSA bouquets, so I'm going to start that and run for the next 5 weeks. I also have I had a bucket order, so I did about 60 to 70 stems in that, and was able to harvest a bunch out of the garden, which was awesome. I have that wedding in 2 weeks. I have the CSA to worry about for this week, which I did deliver those Friday. So I will do them again for either Friday or Saturday this upcoming week. I think at least one of the families is really busy with the fair, so we're going to see if I push them out a week just so that they're able to enjoy them, because I know they're busy with the county fair that's coming up next week. But everything's looking glorious. I'm very excited. I've learned a good handful of lessons. Still trying to figure out why cucumbers seem to be a struggle, but everything else looks pretty good. And I think we probably are going to end up investing in some netting, as much as I've heard horror stories about harvesting in it. So stay tuned to see what the next tour brings and what other projects I run up on this week. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope your gardening season is going well. If you're watching this in the wintertime, I hope that your longing for the garden is a little bit of fulfillment from being able to see how everything's doing, at least this past year or years in the past. I hope you have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.